Hi, I'm Steve, and this is Timbo. Welcome to A Catastrophic Event. I wanted to take a moment to apologize for being so tardy in delivering my video content. I'm not the most computer illiterate person around, and putting this series out has been extremely challenging. With that said, I'll continue my interview with outdoor enthusiast David Wilson on becoming more medically self-sufficient. Today we cover Mullein, which was a godsend to me when I had COVID-19 and has helped people with asthma, bronchitis, pneumonia, and many other conditions for thousands of years. Next is Broadleaf Plantain, another plant with a long history of medical use for cough, wounds, inflamed skin or dermatitis, and insect bites. And according to the experts, it tastes pretty darn good too. And finally, St. John's wort, which herbalists recommend to help with depression, menopausal symptoms, ADHD, obsessive compulsive disorder, and other conditions.
I hope that's what the audience and other people are able to take from this, that they might have an ailment. And it might not be something we're talking about, because I've got a list of maybe a dozen plants that we use on our property, 100 feet from my front door. But there's a wealth of information out there. They can just type in, homeopath for whatever, cramps, hair loss, eczema, sleeplessness, like all these different ailments that a lot of people go through. Right. Could easily be cured with stuff that they could just go on a hike. Not only are the endorphins flooded because you're walking around butterflies and hummingbirds and all that, the sound of nature and the breeze going by, the sweet smell of a tree or a flower, they also get to participate in their medical therapy. Right. So they're harvesting the plant, they're IDing it, they're taking it home, they're preserving it, they're then getting into a form that they can consume, regulating their body. The entire process is beautiful. Right. It's wonderful. And it's almost virtually free.
Right. Basically, you're printing your own money by doing that.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
It just amazes me that people would resist it. Well, of course, part of it is years and years and years of indoctrination. Yeah. We've been told.
The FDA said.
The FDA approves this. Well, the FDA approved Vioxx. Yeah. And if you don't know what Vioxx is, look it up. Yeah. That was FDA approved, and I think about 100,000 people died.
Yeah. Well, as far as any, professional outlet, 3-letter, 4-letter agency, 2020 showed us that we can't trust any of them.
Right.
I don't care what side of the aisle a person's on. That was the biggest screw up in my lifetime. Right. As far as medical procedures, issues, laws, regulations, all of it. All of it.
Yeah. Well, listen.
Shall we get on to the list?
We had better get on with the list.
All right.
Okay, so the first one is Mullein.
Yeah, so Mullein and...
Is it Mullein or Mullein?
I've always pronounced it Mullein. It could be Mullein. It's spelled Mullein. And it is a very tall biannual plant. So the very first year it grows out as a basil.
As a rosette.
And then the second year it sends up a stalk that there's been Mullein that's taller than me. And I'm 6'5". And it's a big plant, huge gaping leaves that hang over, fuzzy. I'll tell you what, when it comes to wilderness survival, Charmin doesn't have anything on Mullein. You double or triple ply that, it's wonderful. Very comfortable.
Biodegradable.
It is. So yeah, mullein is awesome for anything with respiratory issues, coughing. You said that you use it in a
Right.
tea form.
Right. Yeah.
There are different ways you can do it. You can encapsulate it to do it that way. You can also do it in balms. There are so many different ways that it can be captured. What you discovered works best for you, and just keep working with what works. I've even heard of people smoking it. Which,
Right. I have a friend who actually, he was in the Navy, and he was in dry dock several times. And when they would work on the ships, again, they were exposed to a lot of very noxious chemicals.
Yeah.
And so he developed a lot of respiratory problems.
Yeah.
And so he actually has used, smoked it
Yeah.
to,
As an expectorant.
right,
Yep.
to get that stuff out.
Yeah.
And it helps him tremendously. He has sworn by it for years. In fact, he's the one who told me about it. I was like, okay, so we'll give it a whirl. And I can tell you, when you have a chest cold, there's nothing better. Absolutely nothing better than that. It's just amazing stuff.
Yeah, and you can use the entire plant. The root is very, very potent. And this is a quick rule of thumb when it comes to using plants. You want to boil roots and you want to seep leaves. And the reason I say that is because a lot of the compounds and chemicals that are beneficial in the leaves that people are trying to get will be destroyed if they're boiled.
Okay.
And so that's why you seep it. Just bring water up to a boil, have, I was excited to use this. So this is a tea egg. I'm sure everybody knows what this is. Very simple, user friendly, because you can just use it over and over and over. And what you do is you just put your leaves or flowers or whatever inside of it. You boil your water, you just put this inside of your mug or your cup. It's got a little handy little hook here, so it just sits there at the bottom. Pour the hot water in and let it seep for 5-10 minutes and then enjoy. And if you're fortunate enough to have some local raw honey, maybe add a dash as well.
Now, one nice thing about that is you can reuse those
Yeah.
mullein leaves 2 or 3 times.
You can.
You don't have to just use it once and throw it away.
Yeah.
Because if you're buying mullein, it's not cheap. But if you're getting it yourself, of course, it is. It
Yeah.
just costs the gas and the
Yeah.
time to get there. But whatever. But you can reuse it a couple of times, at least a couple of times. So
Yeah. Now another thing to note about mullein is it thrives in like the worst soil.
it does.
I'm sure the audience, if you don't know what it is and you look it up, you'll say, "Oh my gosh, I see it on the side of the highway all
Right.
the time." You got these embankments where there's nothing but rock and dirt and mullein.
Sun.
Yeah.
Lots of sun.
And mullein.
And one thing, on a side note, I almost have a degree in horticulture, and mullein is actually a plant that a lot of people will plant because it's a beautiful plant.
Uh-huh.
And it is a centerpiece. A lot of people will use as a centerpiece in their garden.
Yeah. The stalk is real tough too. And they get about, inch and a half, almost 2 inches in diameter, a good sized plant.
So get out your chainsaw. You're ready to rock, man.
Yeah, let's see if I have anything else. So mullein eardrops. This is something that one of our friends, she would use it.
Really?
Yeah, so she would use mullein and garlic. And so what she would do is she would let it sit in an oil, okay, for an extended period of time, so all of the compounds she was looking for would go into the oil. And then anytime there was an earache for a kid, one of my sons, he would have chronic earaches. None of the other kids had it. We actually had to go to an eye, nose, throat doctor, specialist for it, and they actually had to rupture his ear one time. Anyway, so what she would do is she would take a couple drops, you just lay on your side and drop it in there. The oils would make it so it would easily be able to move through the eardrum, and be absorbed. And then the mullein and the garlic would, obviously the garlic is amazing as far as antibiotic. And so anyway, that's what she used.
So when you say oil, you're talking olive oil,
Sure.
avocado oil, that type of thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Something that isn't damaged, so to speak, mixed up. You don't want some of like saffron and all this other stuff, canola oil. You want something
hydrogenated, right?
Yeah, yeah. You want something
that.
that's is, you know, just as pure as possible.
Virgin.
Yeah, yeah. You know, and you could even use lard if you really wanted to.
Okay.
Mix it in that, because apparently we are closer related to pigs genetically than we are to monkeys. Yeah. Riddle me that one. Okay, also it's used to treat diarrhea. It's an anti-inflammatory and antimicrobial. You can also use it to treat topically burns, wounds, and eczema. So, yeah.
Yeah, I know you can put the leaves on you for that, for burns. It will help.
Yeah, yeah.
It's an amazing plant. And
well, all of them are.
Right.
It's like picking your favorite superhero.
Right. There you go. That's exactly right.
Okay, so the next one.
St. John's wort.
Woohoo! Beautiful, beautiful St. John's wort. So this one is easily identified with the 5 yellow petals on the flower.
Okay.
And it has very small leaves on it. And this one is one of the more powerful psychotropic medicinal plants. It's used...
So what is psychotropic?
So this almost solely is used for antidepressant. So it's a mood stabilizer. And if a person was to Google it, they're going to see all these warnings coming up. You know, be careful using St. John's wort. Well, that warning is if you're taking pharmaceutical and St. John's wort. You don't want to mix and match, you know, natural with synthetic, because that, I have no idea what could happen with that. And they probably don't either, and they don't want to delve into it too much, because some studies have shown that it's up to 5 times as effective as Prozac. Yeah, and it's just growing in your backyard. Now it takes, when a person's doing this, again, not medical advice, if a person's doing this, it takes like 3 or 4 days of taking it for the body to have the uptake for the antidepressants. And again, if a person is on pharmaceutical stuff, they need to wait like a week or so that all those other chemicals
flushed
are
out of your
flushed
system.
out. Yeah, so there's no interaction with chemicals. And I'm saying, like, worst case scenario, you don't have a pharmacy, you're stuck out in the middle of nowhere, you're super depressed, which is ironic.
Right.
That we're living so far north, our winters are so dark and dreary, and we're given medicine for it.
Isn't that crazy?
It's wonderful. It's a blessing. Okay, so, let's see. Oh, it also has menopausal. There are some studies that have shown that it reduces menopausal symptoms, such as hot flashes. But the majority of stuff with St. John's wort is for the antidepressant. And again, that could be used, you could make a tincture with it, you could make, you could encapsulate it, you probably could smoke it. However a person decides to get it into their body, it will act as an antidepressant.
Basically, you know, it's something, if you're going to do any of these, you need to research.
Yes.
And you need to find out for yourself.
Don't take my word for it.
You know, look into it, and how best to introduce it to you. What works best for your life, what works best for your system. You know, like I take beetroot powder, which is for my blood pressure, and it helps significantly. But you know, I can encapsulate it, but I drink it simply because, I mean, it doesn't taste bad once you get used to it.
Okay.
But it's a good way to get water. And
True. Yeah.
you know, so I have a big stein I have at home, and I fill up with water, and so I get my 24 ounces of water, and I get my beetroot powder all at one time. And so that works for me. But other people, they don't like the taste. It does really kind of taste like dirt. So, you know, it's not really exciting.
You've developed a tolerance
I developed
and a liking for dirt.
There you go. But, you know, so now, but you can take it either way. And with any of these, there's multiple ways.
Yes.
And the beauty of this is, these things are not going to hurt you.
No.
You
no.
know,
if you take,
It would be so hard to overdose.
Right.
I mean, it's like if you give somebody I challenge you, overdose on Mullein. I'm
Right.
sure somebody could figure it out on their deathbed. I did it.
I OD'd
I
on Mullein.
overdosed on Mullein.
Yes. But for a normal person, you're not going to OD on this stuff. So try it, experiment with it,
Yes.
and just realize you're not hurting yourself.
Yeah.
Like for instance, I take this medicine called Montelukast, which I'm actually trying to figure out a way to wean myself off of it because it's for allergies in general, and the side effects are, I mean, they're not terrible if it doesn't affect you, but if it affects you, it causes mood problems. It can cause, people commit suicide because of it. It causes depression. It causes all kinds of psychological issues. And
Wait, that's a pharmaceutical?
Mhm.
And you're
Yeah.
still taking it?
Right, and
Isn't that fascinating?
I'm weaning. I'm looking into weaning myself from it, but the problem is, by pulling away from it, is it going to cause me problems? And that is something that it can cause you problems.
Yeah.
So, do I need it anymore? I don't believe I do, but it's that withdrawal that makes me nervous. So
Well, maybe also a part of it is psychological.
it could be psychological too.
So you brought that up and I laughed because it reminds me of these commercials for pharmaceutical drugs. You got this man and woman, they're riding these big bikes on the beach and the sun's setting, and that goes through, and you have no idea what the drug's actually supposed to do. They just look happy, and then at the end, like super fast, like this person, like speaking side effects include,
Yeah.
nose bleeding, sore
Liver
throat,
disorders,
suicidal
brain
thoughts,
problems.
possible death. And it's like, what?
Yeah.
I just have a sore foot. Like,
Right.
I don't want to die.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So yeah, circling back to what you're talking about, these are very safe. For
Right.
thousands of years has been documented that
Right.
people have been using this, and unlike the pharmaceutical drugs, a person can mix and match to
Right.
develop a synergy with similar, like antidepressant with something else that, is going to help them as well.
Well, like turmeric. Turmeric,
You're using it with
black
pepper.
pepper. And you're using it
And
with
that's
ginger.
a
because it-
synergy because
Right.
on their own they can do only so much, but together it's a force multiplier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of it. Whereas with with the pharmaceuticals, there's reactions, and what's interesting is some of those reactions your doctor doesn't even know about.
Or maybe they do and they don't want to tell you.
Could be.
I had first-hand account of that.
Really?
Mother-in-law got cancer from taking antidepressants, and one of the side effects he knew was cancer. So when she was talking with him and she was diagnosed, he said, "Yeah, it's from the antidepressants." And
Oh my
I can't tell you the anger and rage that was in my heart because that man prescribed it to her.
Right.
Knowing that could be an outcome, and he's not surprised at all that she got it.
Yes. Funny you mention that because one of the blood pressure medicines I was originally prescribed, I was very allergic to, but I took it anyway because I was stupid and listening to my doctor.
Mhm.
Well, that gave me gout. I never had gout. I've never been a big meat eater. I don't eat much meat, but I now have gout. I suffer from it all the time, and really, well, yeah, it's from a stupid pill.
Mhm.
And I mean, if you're gonna get gout, at least get it the old-fashioned way, the good way. Have a 30-ounce steak.
Yeah.
No, not me. I'd
Yeah.
rather take a blood pressure medicine.
Yeah.
And it's crazy, but again. it's
Yeah, and I just heard recently black box prescription.
I take one.
Okay, what does that mean? Is that like death?
Good. Yeah, that's one of the side effects is death.
Oh gosh.
Right.
Do you go to the casino often?
Do I? No.
But you're doing it with your life, and
Well,
that's
see, that-
fascinating.
See, the two of the medicines that they tried to prescribe me were actual black box drugs. Montelukast is on the edge because of the psychological. Now, it hasn't affected my psychologically, but I have to admit, my memory is not what it used to be. I forget things, and that is a possible side effect. So that's one of the reasons why I'm seriously considering getting away from it, simply because I forget things that I shouldn't, and I don't want to forget more.
Yeah.
And,
Well, you got some great incentives to wean yourself off, and I'm sure the audience, they must be suffering too. I
Right.
mean, almost every single one of the drugs that they pick up at the pharmacy comes with a side effect.
Right.
And I think the tragedy is the person then goes to the doctor, and the doctor then prescribes another
Right.
pharmaceutical drug to counteract, well, I'm taking this, and so I don't have, a diet anymore, I'm not hungry. Well, let's give you this to stimulate. And then the combination of the two not only stimulates the hunger, but it also gives diarrhea. And then you got to take this other
Right.
drug to counteract the diarrhea. And then the combination of those increases the blood pressure. It just,
Right.
before you know it, they're on 12 different
Right.
meds every single day, and they're a mass.
Right.
And they're way sicker than they were when they first started out.
Right, that's the whole thing. Yeah, that's the thing, that's the deal, 20-something pills a day.
Oh.
And, she takes one, well, this causes bloating, so she has to take, I think it's called a diuretic or whatever, that gets rid of water.
Mhm.
So, it doesn't just get rid of water, now you have to go to the bathroom 15, 20 times a day.
Mhm.
On and on and on and on, and so, no thanks.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, and again, I think this is a beautiful, traumatic silver lining. That we are a part of a heavily medicated society that is sick. And once people recognize that the medical and the pharmaceutical industry don't make money off of a healthy society,
Really?
you might understand the incentive and the outcome with what's happening. So just a person recognizing, like yourself, I've been taking this, I know the side effects, gosh, I don't like it, I think I'm better now. That's the first step.
Right.
Once a person's already on it, then you can start looking at, okay, well, let's see, what can I find, locally, or maybe some I can buy online, that's natural, that would help with some of the things I was trying to alleviate in the first place.
Right.
And there's tons of information, so that starts the journey.
Right.
And hopefully it's like a flower opening for people in the audience where they're like, I've needed to take this step, but I was scared.
Right.
Because I trust my doctor. He went to school for 20-something years, he paid $250,000, he would never deceive me or lie to me, or maybe the information that was given to him was paid by the pharmaceutical industry to ensure that they were only giving out pills and they never touched homeopathy.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, if your doctor, or in my case, my doctor, one of the first things he does is talks to me about diet, losing weight, okay?
mhm.
Which is a horse of another color, but be that as it may. If he's not talking, or if your doctor is not talking to you about your diet, if your doctor is not talking to you about nutrition,
Mhm.
about what you're taking in, then you need to get a different doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the first thing.
Yeah.
Because, you're not going to get cured by pharmaceuticals. You need to eat right, you need to get sleep, you
Yeah.
need, there's all these other things that you just can't function without.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. I think that if every American was to have a healthy diet,
Mhm.
I'm not telling them what to eat, but a healthy diet, we all know what that kind of looks like, got good sleep, like what you just mentioned, and exercise every single day, I'm guessing like 90% of the ailments in this country would disappear.
Right.
And it's those three things right there that is keeping us in this downward spiral, which ultimately I think it makes us easier to control.
Mhm.
When we aren't healthy, when we aren't strong, when we can't stand up and say no,
Right.
when we're just, lackadaisical and kind of in a blur and scrolling.
Well, how about this? If you don't do such and such, you can't get your medicine.
Mm.
You think that's impossible? You think that's not in the works?
In the cards.
I mean,
It's called a credit score. It's working over in China right now.
Right, and if you don't see what we just went through, what's coming down the pipe, you need to put the pipe down, because really, you got some serious seeds clogging the screen.
Yeah.
Seriously, you need to be looking ahead, and you need to start getting out of the system as much as you can, because this system is not designed for you, it's designed for them.
Truth. Again, my perspective, utilizing and knowing ancient and historic technology and wisdom and coupling that with modern.
Right.
So that we can utilize laptops and,
Right, exactly.
credit cards and online purchases and driving a car, all that kind of stuff, with the ability to take care of myself if that was removed.
Right.
I think if people could get to that point, life is so much more satisfying and there's more peace.
Mm-hmm. Well, we need to start
we
rolling
do.
down this list, or,
We're going to be here for a couple days.
Exactly. So we have, it looks like plantain.
Plantain. So this is a plant that seems to thrive by us stepping on it. It's flat. There's two variants to it. There's a broadleaf, and then there's a narrow leaf. The narrow leaf, the leaves end up growing slightly bigger or longer. Both of them send up a stalk. At the very top is the flower head, which then ends up having the seeds. Now, a lot of people will harvest the stalk and the seed pod at top and cook them like asparagus. So steam it and eat it. It's a choice edible. It's very good. Yeah, some butter, a little bit of garlic, salt, and pepper. Yeah, you're on. And then another way to utilize it is by cutting the leaves when they're young and then just cooking it like spinach. And again, butter, salt, pepper, you're done. It's delicious.
Really?
Yeah, now the bigger the leaf gets, and this is true for most of the species, the bigger the leaf gets, the more fibrous it's going to get.
Oh, like lettuce.
Yeah. So like the veins that are going through, getting all of the water to the parts of the leaf are going to get bigger and tougher. And so, it's definitely best to harvest them when they're younger and more tender. Wonderful, wonderful plant. And it also has medicinal properties. So not only is it delicious to eat, they would use it as like a poultice, where they just crush it up for like snake bites, bee bites, bug bites, bruises, anything like that.
So you take the leaf and you
crush it up.
And you put it directly on.
And you just put it right on there, and you could wrap something around it if you actually wanted to hold it on there to be able to draw toxins out. It's really good for that. And then also yarrow. Both of those were basically historically the soldiers' go-to medicine to have in a pouch on hand, because they'd be getting slashed, cuts, daggers, arrows going through, whatever.
And all the...
Yeah, and so they would need something on hand to be able to apply directly. Now, obviously, if it's a gaping wound and, an artery severed, it's...
Okay, yeah.
You got to draw the line somewhere.
You're the Black Knight from Monty Python.
Yeah. It's merely a flesh wound. Yeah, he pulls out his plantain, yarrow. Merely a flesh wound.
Stuff it in your artery. We're good.
Yeah,
Okay.
So it is wonderful, and I mean I've got an entire page on stuff. Here's a great one as far as ingesting immune boosting. Plantain leaves are high in immune boosting vitamins A and C, and the high tannin content imparts astringent properties which reduce inflammation and combat infection by depriving bacteria of nutrients. There's so much more that could be said on plantain, yet I just have to say I enjoyed my salads.
Well, again, this is to whet your appetite.
Yeah, please go down the rabbit hole as far as you can. Bring a lot of candles and the glow sticks and all that, because it goes deep. There's lots of information, and like what I was bringing up about the plantain and yarrow, using them together, the symbiotic use of that is a force multiplier for the medicine to be able to heal you.
That is amazing.
Yeah, and again, our favorite way to use it on almost a daily basis is just going out and cutting it and throwing it in with our greens. You know, I've got my tower gardens, and so we've got the kale, the butterhead lettuce, we've got arugula, and then also the pak choi. And so those are like the four corners of my salad. And then we go out and we harvest dandelion leaf and plantain and, you know, comfrey, whatever we can get, throw it in there. Oh, and then we'll take like radish leaves, radish flowers, and just, it's absolutely beautiful.
Sounds
it
delicious.
Smells wonderful, and then drizzle some balsamic vinaigrette on it.
Dude.
It's, you're talking about stuff that people pay like
A lot.
$80 a plate meals.
Right.
That's their salad that they get.
And they're weeds.
Yeah, yeah.
A lot of that is
Well,
just
half of what I
weeds.
talked about, I didn't plant any of it.
Right.
And that's the beauty, is that this is stuff that's available at zero energy output on our end.
Right, right. And they're prolific.
Yeah.
So once you start, you know, expect bumper crops from then on. Just make sure you have lots of room,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because they'll fill it.
Well, and a part of what I'm doing is I'm also going out and harvesting seeds. So I can be intentional. Now I'm not going to be putting in potting soil and transplanting. I'm just going to go around and just throw it.
Right.
Just throw it where I want it. I know my property now after being there 16 years. I've got cool shaded areas with drainages. I've got hot south facing. I've got cool north facing. I've got trees, partial trees. And so I can look, observe how the plant likes it, you know, because there's a difference between, you know, a mullein that's this tall and a mullein that's 8 feet tall. You know, one of them is happy, the other one's not. So just copy what Mother Nature is already
Right.
showing. You know, plant the seeds where the really big one is, and you'll probably get a big crop.
And in that vein, you could probably take a mixture. If you don't know your property, if you don't know where you're planting, you could take a mixture of those seeds,
Mm-hmm.
spread them out. The ones that live are happy.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the ones you want to keep putting.
Yeah, and all it is time. For a lot of these plants, going out and harvesting seeds off of the mullein.
Because hope is not a plan, learning to use natural medicine is an important skill, especially in light of the growing risk of war disrupting the supply chain, the increased benefits to your health, and the reduced risk of severe side effects. After completing this series, I'll post book reviews and links to books and videos to help you become more independent and self-reliant. Thank you for watching, and please like and share and leave us a comment. We look forward to seeing you next week as David talks about Juneberry, elderberry, prickly lettuce, and white yarrow.